Thanks to everyone who came. And we're going to be traveling. And oh, yes, we're going to make up for lost time for these last couple of years. And if anyone's interested in our itinerary, we would love to meet up with you for retreat gatherings. Sometimes just a workshop or a development session or 2 or 3 days retreat. The places we're starting in Pennsylvania, and our host is here today, Wave Bill, and then we're going to Texas, and our Texan host is here, Wave Doe and Chuck, yay! And then we're going to Barbados.
And he's here too.
Oh my goodness. And we'll be there for about 10 days and speaking and praying and having sessions every day in Barbados. We've only been there momentarily on a cruise, you know. And then speaking of cruises, we're taking a transatlantic repositioning cruise, and that industry, as you all probably know, are just dying for our business, and they're offering really cheap prices. And we plan to have prayers in our stateroom every day for a 2-week crossing. And on those days, when we're in the Azores and Malaga and Gibraltar, we will arrange sessions around the convenience of participants. So please consider that. In Barcelona, we'll be there for 3 days, and then we're going to the UK, and we'll be offering weekend retreats in Blackpool, and the following, which is the weekend of May 7th and 8th, and then Guernsey. So if you can meet up with us along the way, please message me, and I'll be happy to send you details. So our talk today, I guess, is the reason why you're here, is on interplanetary communication and the messages we've been receiving from our new stellar guide, who we call Orion. So we invite your healthy skepticism. We also invite you to listen with your hearts and to have an open mind and see if these messages of love resonate with you. And if you do, if you would like to hear the messages or read the messages, they are available on 2 different websites. And after our talk, we'll post them in the chat. But one is soultruth.ca out of Sydney, Australia, by Jeff Cutler. And the other website is divinelovesanctuary.com. These messages are also available to listen to on Podbean. So we're only very happy to share all of these beautiful messages with you. So we've only known this beautiful being, this bright, high, loving spirit for 6 months. And during this time, Orion's blessed us by coming about twice a week, roughly, delivering a total of 37 messages as of yesterday. When we added up all the hours, it came to 10 hours of Orion speaking to us. So we have a lot more to share than we can in this time together that we have today. Orion speak to Al, and Al can hear him directly through his gift of clairaudience. And then he also speaks through Al using his gift of trance mediumship. And as the dutiful wife that I am sitting beside him and I record the messages on my beautiful little precious phone. We post them in WhatsApp. If anybody's interested in getting on to that WhatsApp group, we post the audios just as soon as we receive them. And then they're transcribed by some wonderful volunteers who support our work. When we first started to receive messages from Orion, we didn't want to share them. We just were
gobsmacked.
Yeah, we didn't want more criticism and pushback and disbelief, all that kind of stuff that goes, as many of you know, with this work and with these gifts. But it didn't take us long to get over ourselves because of the magnificent and intense love and healing energies of these wonderful sessions. And we came to realize fairly quickly that we needed to respond to Orion's request to share his messages with the world. We first met Orion in September of last year when Al and I hosted 12 people from across Canada and the US. A few of them are here, you can wave. We came together for an intensive month-long development group at our home here in Western Canada. So the group came together after praying together weekly on Zoom for some months with the highest intentions and dedication to this work. So this is not something that Al and I could achieve on our own. It is definitely the power of a harmonious, unified, and dedicated group that allows these messages to come through. While we were here in September, we sat in development circles for 3 hour-long sessions a day. Every morning, we sat in a dark room. Then in the afternoon and the evening, we would sit upstairs where there is a beautiful light in our home, unified in building and maintaining the highest vibration that we possibly can as human beings with all our frailties, because each one of us coming together feels called to do this work at this time. Being together for a month was a very deep blessing. We went deeper and deeper each day of our time together. And then besides sitting in a circle for 3 hours a day in prayer and meditation, we walked in nature, which surrounds us where Al and I live. And we used our healing gifts on each other. We shared spiritual readings, and then everyone in the group has different spiritual gifts that are opening up, and they shared these readings, visions, and messages that each one was getting. So it was a time for a deep spiritual connection away from the demands and responsibilities of everyday life that we're all very well aware of, living in this earth condition. You know, how we're buffeted by the material aspects of our lives and the stressors that we all engage in. So what a blessing it was. Before everyone arrived, Al and I were told that this retreat would be filled with surprises, and it was. So we call ourselves the DV Dozen. DV stands for direct voice. The goal of our development is for the physical manifestation of angels and bright spirit in broad daylight so that they can speak directly to groups of people. And we sometimes call this gift direct voice, but we're really talking about the goal of physical manifestation. So I'd like to read a few excerpts of messages that we've received from Orion. I'll start with the excerpt about how he introduced himself to the group, and that was on September the 7th. So that's just 6 months ago. After I read these messages, Al will share some of his experiences as a medium and the visions that he received during the sessions in the dark room. And I want to say, this husband of mine for 45 years is not a flaky guy. He's always been interested in science fiction, very sensitive, but he's extremely well-grounded, and he keeps testing the spirits that come to him. He's had spiritual gifts and awakening since he was a teenager. It's just been such a privilege to have this walk with him on our spiritual path together. And if you get to know him, you'll realize that, you see,
I'm just a simple gardener, folks.
he is.
There will be growth in the spring.
Okay, so on September the 7th, here we are, our eager DV dozen sitting in the dark room in our home. And we get our first surprise, this message from Orion. And he says, "Greetings and blessings, children of the earth. I am Orion. I have come so that you may know me, for I work with you all in your efforts to awaken humanity to a higher state of consciousness and awareness, that in time, humanity may embrace the entire universe in their understanding and acceptance of all that the great Creator has brought into being. For the journey of life includes many layers of experience and consciousness that humanity has denied itself because it is unwilling to move beyond its static view of reality. Its view that is centered in one place, one planet, that in many minds is the center of all that God's created. But in truth, your one planet is merely a tiny aspect of all that is in God's creation. It is like a grain of sand upon the seashore. Imagine this, my friends, that life abounds in so many places that you cannot count, that God's creation is infinite and bounteous. My name is Orion, but in truth, I cannot tell you my name, for you could not pronounce it. But I come from the area of your perception of the universe that you call Orion. So I suffice to bring this name forward so that you may know me more readily. In physical appearance, and Al can describe how he sees him, I am not unlike yourselves. We are a taller race and have features that are not unlike your own. We have been aware and have a level of spiritual acuity and wisdom that would dwarf what is presently exhibited upon your earth plane. But like so many in the great universe of God's children, we have a deep desire to serve those in God's universe so that they may move forward in light and enlightenment, that they may come to understand the potentials that God has instilled within them, the gifts, as you call them, their own soul. For each and every one of us in God's universe possesses a soul. What you wish to manifest is a rudimentary aspect of what we are able to utilize and bring forward with our gifts and knowledge and understanding. It is a simple matter for us to help you in this endeavor. We are very happy to do so. For many who are at a lower plane of development in the great firmament of God's universe, it requires something dramatic, something often that is traumatic, in order to shift consciousness and kickstart, as you would say, the machinery of true awakening to the great potentials of those individuals upon your planet. We know and feel, as many in the universe, we feel this great momentum that is taking place now in your world. It draws our interest and our desire to help birth something that is truly beyond the condition and understanding that you have at this time in your world. We have much to give to the earth. When that time comes, when earth is in need, and many of your brothers and sisters will cry out for comfort, stability, truth, and peace. In this crying out, many forces will respond and bring to you that which is required to hold you through this great shift, this great reckoning that is God's will to bring harmony to you rather than the difficulties and disruptions that are now part of daily life on earth. We have embraced the universal truth that God is love and that all is governed by love. If humanity is willing to embrace this truth, then indeed the world will be transformed and awakened to something very new and wonderful. Then true progress will take place. The progress that will bring new technologies, and Al will tell you examples of them bringing technologies into our circle as we were sitting together, new systems of government, new ways of supporting one another in your endeavors, and new understandings of the human potential and those things that may bring forth greater harmony in your world. We have learned much from Orion, and as I said, too much to share at this time, but there was a few points I would like to make before I turn it over to Al. We learned that all of us on earth, when we reach a certain level of soul awakening and spiritual progression, we have the potential of traveling to other parts of the universe instantaneously by thought in our spirit bodies. And I think there are many of us on the screen today and connections that already experience some of these gifts. You know what I'm speaking about, often in our sleep state. And Orion emphasizes another truth that I think we understand, that all our material pursuits in this world are irrelevant to the progression of our souls. Orion told us that our stellar friends are here to bring their knowledge, their understandings, and as we have experienced already, great relief from pain that is so predominant for people on our earth. Orion confirmed that our stellar friends can materialize and dematerialize themselves and objects. So spaceship travel is actually unnecessary for more highly progressed beings. Using their spirit bodies to travel is much faster and efficient. And this is how trade is conducted between more highly evolved planets. Orion and his friends are eager to provide Earth with the necessities that will be needed during upcoming changes in our world. Although they have the ability to manifest now in their spirit bodies, they are waiting for the conditions to be right. They will manifest sometime soon when people on Earth are ready for this to happen. They are here now, helping us to prepare for their coming. On Orion's planet, I just can't imagine it. There's no need for the kinds of schools, hospitals, and institutions that we have here on Earth. They were born in love. They live in harmony with each other. There are no wars. Love is abundant, and relatively there is very little suffering compared to Earth. Often they love strangers than humans love their own children. Not many planets suffer as much as the suffering that exists on Earth, but some planets do suffer even more. Each planet is given the gift of free will. That means the thoughts, the deeds, and the actions of the residents on each planet collectively determine the spiritual condition of each world and the amount of light and colors the planet emanates into space. So it's easy for our stellar friends to see the spiritual condition of each one of us, and indeed the collective spiritual condition of Earth. On Earth, Orion perceives there is a dominating culture of willful materialism, entitlement, rather than a willingness to compromise or consider the needs of others for the greater good of all. The suffering and destruction will continue on Earth unless there is a great shift in consciousness and soul awakening. The popular belief and fears that extraterrestrials from other planets want to conquer and exploit Earth is a projection of our own conditions on Earth and is not true. The world needs to go through a process of awakening, a process which begins with each one of us coming to know our own souls with an understanding of our own soul condition and the expiation or release of those unloving parts of ourselves. We've acquired so much in this world we've been born into, and I think the greatest challenge for all of us is to rise above the conditions of the world that we've taken on. Orion encourages us to join in soul expansion and enlightenment with others to change the world and bring greater light into the world. As the world we know it is undergoing a transition, Orion assures us that he and the host of stellar friends will not stand by and watch us face challenges without offering their assistance. It's up to those of us on Earth who are also deeply concerned about the current conditions of our world to turn our thoughts and our prayers to the Creator and live our lives in loving harmony with one another to the best of our ability. So God bless each one of us in our spiritual pursuits, or uniquely spiritual pursuits, to rise above the condition of this world. So I thank you for your attention, and I will turn it over to my sugar daddy.
Thanks, Jeanne. So Jeanne has shared the philosophy of these extraterrestrials who are actually embodied on a physical plane far from us. He showed me where he lives. He actually took me on a little tour of where he lives, and it's a planet that is on a different arm of the galaxy, you know, how it spins around in different arms. And it's closer to that spherical body of stars that's in the middle of the Milky Way. So he showed me the night sky, and it was a beautiful kind of mauvey purple with this glowing mass of stars that could be seen from his planet, not kind of diffuse like we see it from our planet, but actually this spherical embodiment of light. It was pretty remarkable and varied. They live in a physical body, but they are so far advanced with their psychic spiritual gifts that they're able to utilize their spirit bodies in ways that, would be difficult. I think Jürgen, the astral traveler, may have, some of those abilities and possibilities to do that, but very few of us have here, I'm sure. Maybe some of us do. Anyway, it's second nature to them to actually go outside of their physical body and to travel around, and they do so quite often. They can also materialize and dematerialize objects. So they live in a different world than we do, absolutely. And that world is very harmonious. He has talked to us extensively about how it's the need to be in harmony together on this planet that will bring the advancement that we seek. I mean, we all have an imagined life in the future will be full of technologies and abilities and things that we will utilize for our benefit and for easy living and all of that sort of thing. But he says we're on the wrong track, that we're looking to do all of this scientifically and materially, but he said without the spiritual awakening in individuals, then it's not going to be possible. That because we don't, excuse me, I'm going to just take a drink here. Because we don't seek to balance ourselves spiritually, then we don't express the balance of what is the natural world, God-created world, whatever way you want to look at it. And therefore, we keep creating imbalances in our world. What Orion and his friends are seeking to do to help us is to show us the way we can find this balance, to find the spiritual awakening within ourselves, whatever that might look like for each individual. They also assure us that every individual has their own spiritual journey, that there is no one thing that makes all of us kind of journey in lockstep together towards spiritual awakening, that each of us have our own individual journey in that regard. But he also talks about the soul, and the soul is a much greater unifying factor amongst humanity, because the soul can sense and know and communicate with every other individual. It's that possibility is there. So therefore, a unity can be created not from up here in the mental faculties, but down here in the soul and the heart. And that is a great untapped resource. And as Jeanne has read, he keeps mentioning about the soul. Anyway, during our time together for our retreat, he came just about every day. He was more or less conducting this retreat as we went into our stillness, our prayer and meditation time together. And there were a few of us in that circle that saw more or less the same thing or experienced more or less the same thing.
If anyone wants to read all the messages that he responded to already in a Q&A, we can publish the links to that.